Sam Hyde on numerous occasions has talked about this weird thing that he's done in the past called debt maxing. Essentially what it is that he ran up a bunch of money on credit cards and on loans, didn't pay them back, invested them into Bitcoin, and is now rich. Now the only question should be, should we do the same ourselves? Because obviously it worked for him, why wouldn't it work for me?
I probably have $100,000 worth of debt. Do you know what the negative consequences of me having $100,000 worth of debt is?
So you can see right here, this is really not a lie. I owe them 20K. They called me a few weeks ago and said I could do 80 a month. By the time it's paid off, my Aprila debt will be old enough to buy cigarettes and vote. So you can see this right here. He's got a bunch of total balances, a bunch of payments from Toyota services. We check this out right here, like motorcycle services, so like an 18K balance. It'll take 240 months for him to pay it off, only $80 due every single month.
When I was younger, I always heard to pay off my debt. Pay off your debt. You should buy a house. Every American wants to buy a house. This is how you get rich. You buy a house. You pay off your debt. You don't have any debt. You don't want debt. That's bad. Debt's very bad. I'm in so much debt right now. I'm probably in $100,000 worth of debt. I probably have $100,000 worth of debt. Do you know what the negative consequences of me having $100,000 worth of debt is? I got a phone call that I don't pick up.
So from his own admission, he probably has about 100K in debt. And let's ignore the obvious question in the room here. Is he joking? Is he just trolling? It's Sam Hyde, so you never really know. But in this video, I'm going to be going through a logical explanation of how anybody could do the debt maxing method. Now, this is coming from someone who runs a credit repair company, so I know for a fact how easy it is to get shit removed off of your credit. Actually, for a limited time inside of my school community, I'm doing completely free hard inquiry removal, provided you go ahead and join. It's completely free to join. I'm gonna leave a link for that in the description. But I know for a fact how easy it is to remove basically any amount of debt from your credit report, because realistically, what can a company do if you're into debt and you don't pay it back? So debt collectors can access your bank account if they sue you, but only after a court judgment. You guys can see right here, they have to sue you basically. And if they don't sue you, then they can never get this debt. But something to mention is that a lot of people think that it's illegal for a collection agency to buy your debt under like some consumer law bullcrap. That's not true. A loan agency can buy debt. That's totally legal. It's allowed. So don't think that you can get out of it by saying oh, well, this is illegal because my rights say this. I never entered a contract. That's not true. You did enter a contract. The contract said you would pay this back on interest and you didn't. And now this is happening and the bank has the right to do this. So just keep that in mind. But keep in mind, debt collectors cannot threaten, harass, or publicly shame you in any way. They can only reach out to you a maximum of one time a month. So let's say hypothetically you run up 100K of debt, right? That debt can then be sold to debt collectors from the bank. Essentially, what the debt collector wants to do is that they buy your debt for usually pennies on the dollar, usually about 50% of that 100K. So to them, as long as they can get about 50K, they're going to be happy. But even then, if they don't collect this full amount, they can still write it off in their taxes if they want to. They can still write it off in their taxes because it's considered unrealized gains off of a loan, and they can write off both in full the interest you were supposed to pay. So let's say you were supposed to pay another 100K in interest. So they can write off that interest and the 50K that they bought it for. So you guys can see how it's very easy to rack up money as a debt collector because you have all of these write-offs essentially that you don't have to pay taxes on. Plus, you're basically getting a huge amount of debt for pennies on the dollar, and a lot of people don't understand that this is the relationship that happens. Now, I'm ignoring the obvious question of how are you going to get 100K in funding? The simple answer to that is that you build good credit. Again, inside of my school community, I have a full course explaining how to get an 800 plus credit score in under 12 months. I also have videos on this channel explaining how to get good credit. It's pretty simple. You just have to essentially pay in full, pay on time, pay consistently. And if you do that for a couple years, you'll have good credit and you can run up a 100K loan pretty rapidly. But let's say you do run up a 100K loan. What can you do with that money? Well, you could put it into something like BTC. The problem when you do this is, let's say, in order to get out of this debt right here, you want to file for bankruptcy to get out of it. So it can't be reported on your credit anymore. The bankrupting lawyers are going to look at the BTC, the 100K of BTC that you have in your assets, and seize that. Because what happens in bankruptcy is that they take everything. So everything that you own, they put it into a little pot and they do direct deposit on your checks, which essentially means you have to give them your checking and routing numbers for your workplace, and take whatever money they can to pay off the negotiated sum. And that's how bankruptcy works. But they would take this BTC. So what can you do instead? Hypothetically, you could essentially commit wire fraud if you wanted to, and take this BTC, hold this BTC, and probably, I don't know, wash it somewhere, so like scrub it, so it's now BTC somewhere else, that the tax man, the IRS, can only see this, but can't see this. So they can only see this amount, but they can't see this amount. So when you file for bankruptcy, or if you want to file for bankruptcy and kill your credit for 7 years, for the 100K, they see that you only have this much BTC left, assume that it's a loss, and then only take that amount. However, this entire thing that I just explained to you is very, very illegal, and if you're caught, years in prison. Like, I'm not joking, years in prison, so it's my full advice to not do this. I don't think you should do this. If you do want to run up debt maxing, you can just do what Sam Hyde did, and that's talk to the debt collector and tell the debt collector, hey, I'll only pay $50 a month for this debt. And it would take you 1,000 months to pay it off, which is about 80 years. When you do this, there's a couple things that happen, which also another thing to mention, you don't actually have to get permission to even send them this money. If you send them the money, they can't do anything to you. They can't sue you, they can't do anything because you are attempting to pay it off. So keep that in mind. Per month. So you can still have this 100K, but since it's been sold to the debt collector, now you can only pay it for about $50 per month. Now, here's the conundrum. Finally, it's gonna say you have a bunch of missed payments, a closed account on this 100K loan, and then third and finally, an active collections report against you. If you have all these 3 things on your credit is fucked. And fun fact, like, it's going to be fucked. And there isn't really a lot you can do about it. So that's when you talk to a credit repair agency like mine, and essentially, how we get rid of anything off of your credit report is rewrite something called 504 investigation letters. So what we do is we write something called credit investigation letters. So this is a full thing on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which we can also do things like submit a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and tell them that, hey, basically, this company that reported this 50K on my credit report is wrong. I don't think they're right. You can also do something like file an identity theft report. Inside of the school community, I have a more in-depth full guide. But essentially, honestly, the best way to do it is to just write letters. So you just write fraud dispute letters, like this, for example, showing them exactly like, hey, this is wrong because of 2 reasons. Number 1, because the identity is wrong in the report. So let's say on this 50K, it has your first, middle, and last name on the 50K, but the middle name is wrong. You can dispute the entire 50K off of your credit report. And before you get concerned that the 50K might be seen as, that disputing something off of your credit report might be seen as fraud, that's not true, because a credit report is not a financial document. Keep in mind, guys, it is only illegal to fill false information on a credit card, loan, or bank application. That is a form of credit fraud and a financial crime. It is not illegal, on the other hand, to do things like lie about the amount of income you make. It's also not illegal to lie on your credit report, because again, a credit report is not a financial document. It's not a bank application, it's not anything like that. Editing your credit report is essentially the same legally as like changing your TikTok handle. So that means that maybe you don't have a middle name anymore, and we can just say that you don't have a middle name. Or you had your identity stolen, and we file an identity theft report saying that your identity got stolen because you don't recognize this loan here, right? Doing that is not illegal. When credit repair becomes illegal is when you file a false police report saying that there was identity theft. This chick right here, Rose Credit Repair, when she talks about the $3.3 million scheme, she filed 133 false police reports. Her name was Rose Credit Repair. You can look her up on YouTube. She filed 133 fake police reports to erase millions in debt. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can send as many letters to credit bureaus as you want, saying that, hey, this isn't mine. This shouldn't be on here because it either has false information or it's identity theft, because it's fraud, right? You can also do things like submit a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, saying that this is also not legit, and every single company, all 3 major credit bureaus, have to respond within 15 days. And generally speaking, credit repair doesn't cost more than $1,000. So you're running away with basically 49K that you only have to pay $50 per month, or sometimes even less. I've heard of people paying off $100,000 in medical debt by only sending the debt collectors $5 a month. And because they're sending them some money, they can't do things like place a money order on them. They can't do things like sue them because they are sending them money and they are attempting to pay it off. So essentially you can run away with the 99K from the loan here, if obviously you get approved from the 99K, at the cost, and you can just run away with it, and you can do whatever you want. So you can do things like invest it in stocks. You can do it like invest in the S&P 500. You can invest in a mortgage. You can invest in a house. You can invest in a business and just not bother to pay it off. But keep in mind, there's going to be a few big things that are going to happen when you're going to deal with this. Let's say that you do this with Chase. Chase is never going to fucking do business with you again. So if you ever wanted to get a Chase credit card, if you wanted to open a bank account with Chase, Chase is going to tell you to fuck off, and JP Morgan is also going to tell you to fuck off, because they keep internal documents saying what you are. Because essentially all banks have this like internal credit score, which you can't do anything about. So that's why a lot of people who do this method run it up with like a local credit union, because only with that local credit